Hello and welcome to another Legends of Runeterra podcast. In this one, we have big news to discuss. I'm joined once again by Wick, my co-host,
Hello.
and today we have a famous content creator here with us, and Joeysticks, famous on Twitch and on YouTube, especially the Disintegrate video recently. Glad to have you here. Very honored.
Mhm.
Thank you for having me here. Famous is a bit of a stretch, though.
I would say it's famous for lore terms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. You're famous. Don't worry.
Thank you.
So we have a big article here overlined with we're refocusing on PvP. Now it's already like kind of a week old, but
Mhm.
this is how we can discuss it. And they say a lot of stuff in here, but basically the path of champions can't be fully expanded to what they have envisioned anymore. So they shift the focus back to PvP, and they also move some of the um, path developers back to other parts of Riot. And yeah, so basically, Legends of Runeterra loses some of its developers. Path of Champions will not get as many updates anymore. It will still be updated slowly but surely. For example, decks will be added, but it won't be like a fully overhauled game mode anymore. And we can talk about what this means in detail later, but first I would like to hear your opinions on this statement overall. Vic, do you want to start?
Um, I think when we first heard about this, my first gut reaction was like, "Oh, sweet. Um, the developers and the Legends of Runeterra team will be focusing back on player versus player and competitive aspects of Legends of Runeterra." Reading through it, I got really worried about the fact that some of the developers would be leaving, as you mentioned. And I mean, I think that sort of roller coaster of emotion was reflected by a lot of the community. But I think after about a week of reflecting about it, preparing for this podcast and just talking about it with a lot of people, I think I'm overall feeling pretty confident about the future of Runeterra, and I'm not too scared of or concerned regarding the developers being reallocated and kind of repositioned within Riot. How do you feel about it, Joy?
I actually share the same opinion that I don't feel scared at all when I
Okay.
read this article too. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think the game is dying and all of those, all of that doomsaying. It's really just a matter of a shift, and
Mhm.
I guess the more incredible reactions we got for this were on Reddit because people on Reddit really love Path, and they basically reacted the same way that we did when they say they were focusing on Path. So like the same thing that we were like, oh, this means that PvP don't get any focus at all or any updates at all, and then on
Right.
Reddit for now it's like, oh, Path is dying, it was not
Yeah.
profitable and whatever. So I guess 1 week in, people cooled down a little bit, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a refocus of what they were doing, and I don't really think that lore is dying anytime soon. I think it's a really good
Right.
game,
Me neither.
and I don't think
Mhm.
also that Riot would give up on this game.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right.
And I always like not doing these videos immediately on the announcement day because then there's still a lot of open questions and you can basically just repeat. But now we have a lot more information that we can condense in this video. For example, that path will not be like deleted like Expeditions was. It will stay in the mode for sure, or in the game for sure. And it will still receive updates right now, like a few days ago. We got like a big update on the shard system that it will be overhauled and there will be a duplication limiter enacted, and just find it important to like to wait, not like rush it out with like titles like "Law is dying, what can we do?" Stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think we saw a lot of content being pushed immediately in reaction to this post where some people were saying that the fact that developers were being removed from the Legends of Runeterra team meant that the Legends of Runeterra team was eventually going to die. Um, there was just a lot of like really unfounded speculation regarding the inner machinations of Riot and the sort of business decisions that they're making. I think you touched on it really quickly in regards to the fact that people were saying that Riot isn't, or excuse me, that Path of Champions isn't profitable,
Mhm.
despite this announcement coming only a week after
Yeah.
Path 2.0 was dropped. So obviously, like financial considerations weren't being made for the game mode, or if they were, they were being made like months ago. You know.
Yeah.
There's no way you could draft a feedback in regards of
Mhm,
profit 1 week in
mhm.
of the mode. There's no way that's happening.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coninson, you play a lot of Path of Champions, and obviously you played a lot of expeditions. And so I'm sure when you saw this, I did see your concern and that you raised to developers asking if this sort of shift back to the PvP aspect of Legends of Runeterra was an indicator that Path would eventually be removed from the game, just as Expeditions was when they, stopped supporting that game. And we've since got Rider confirmation that Path of Champions is going to be in the game still, and that there are still developers that will be adding content to it and working on it. And so I think that that's really important to highlight in that just because the team that created Path of Champions is being lent out to other games within Riot doesn't mean that the mode is going to go away anytime soon. And I think that there's so much content currently existing within Path that Riot kind of bought themselves a runway in order to just put the game out there, focus on PvP, and then like add to Path when it's needed to down the line.
Mhm. I can fully agree. Like I just showed the tweets here as well for the people who are just
Mhm,
listening.
mhm.
We got a tweet from Tracy Kennedy, Riot Lavalier, I think it's like pronounced, that they still have like a little bit of time to work on Path and take feedback. So that all that game mode, so the feedback isn't wasted. And of course, the other tweet that
That we're
yeah,
referencing.
Path 2.0 will stay live and there are no plans for that to change. That's from Riot Access. So two Rioters separately. And I also saw a very long Reddit answer today that they will work on the shard system and will overhaul it as well. And I'm
Mhm,
slowly trying to change the view of how Path is viewed as like a endless game mode where you can repeat like Slayless Fire. I just kind of see it more as a campaign. I always talk about it as a
a
campaign,
campaign.
just showcasing all the archetypes and leading you to the actual game. I think that's like much better.
Mhm.
Joey, how much experience did you collect with Path, and what do you think about the game mode?
I actually once when I was very tilted with the game, I spammed Path 1.0 and it was actually pretty fun. I really like the game mode. It's not something that I would gravitate towards because, after all, I am a competitive player. I have never in
Mhm.
my life played a game that had an online multiplayer mode, and I didn't go to the online multiplayer mode. So I'm very,
Yeah.
I want to play against people. And the bot
Mhm.
just seems, kind of ruins the experience for me a little bit. But I can definitely see how someone with a more casual mindset can spend hours and hours on it. And another good thing that I noticed about Path is that it really caters to, oh, I don't have that card, but I can still play it
Mhm.
because it's
Exactly.
in Path.
That's true.
I don't have
That's
that
true.
champion. I don't have the resources to play that champion, but I can still play him or her or them because it's in Path and I can play them. Like I can play the whole collection of Runeterra and even more cards which are exclusive to Path in Path.
Right.
So it has a very big, casual characteristic, and I think like it's a very good game mode. Like looking at afar, if you forget that Legends of Runeterra is a competitive, collectible card digital game, and you just look at Path, you can see it's a
Yeah.
very, very, very good game mode. But it didn't start that way, and that's why I think some of the criticism towards Path comes from, because at the beginning of the game, like in 2020, Legends of Runeterra was very much a competitive game, like since the
Only.
beginning, don't you think?
I agree.
It was a very
And I
competitive.
think,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Oh, well, I was just gonna say, like, kind of building off of the fact that you mentioned that the aspect of Legends of Runeterra that was kind of built into the game. I think the complexity of it, and then also the fact that Riot hosted Worlds during
Yeah,
the first year of the games. Like, what other message can you take away from that other than we want Legends of Runeterra to be a competitively viable card game? And obviously that's what a lot of people want from it. Um, I don't know. It was weird, right? When we got the roadmap announcement earlier this year, where they said that they would be spending a lot more time on Path,
yeah. It was kind
and
of weird,
to
but
see that, right? And
yeah,
now 3 months later, they're taking it back. Go
yeah.
ahead.
But also, like, if you think about, for instance, if we take the project, I think a lot of that this decision needs to be addressed to with what the game devs designed this game to be, what they
Yeah.
wanted this to be. So if you look at the video where they announced the launch of Lore, like very, very,
Mm.
very early on video with Von
Hmm.
Yip still. They talk about how they
Yeah.
played a lot of card games and they noticed a couple of different issues with them, like the RNG and the competitive aspect. And they state that they wanted lore to be different. So for
Yeah.
2020 and the first year of lore, that was in their mind as what this game should be. And then afterwards, worlds that came Arcane, and then came Path, and we had
Hmm.
the announcement that Path was the most popular game mode in this game's history.
Yeah.
Makes sense that towards the end of 2021 and then the beginning of 2022, as we have this announcement that they would be focusing on Path for Path 2 to come
Yeah.
out. But then we are here 3 months later, and they shifted again back to what it seems it was the first idea of the game. So I was talking about a lot about this to other people, like, this is a matter of a crisis of identity inside the
Hmm.
game
Hmm.
for the game devs.
Okay.
They were,
Okay.
Exactly.
the first draft of this article for the shift in the PvP to
Oh.
PvE. Do you remember how they described the split the game focus on the first paragraph? It wasn't like this when I got the leaked version, because the site was having a couple of problems there.
Hmm.
It was like chasing the translation was very, very weird, but it was like chasing these two rabbits that they were describing, PvP and PvE.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
this is
Hmm.
a clear uh, signal that they were having a crisis of identity, an identity crisis within
Yeah.
what they wanted lore to be. And actually, this is what I think it's most relevant to this discussion. Not if it was profitable, or if oh, they hate Path, or they don't like Path, or is Path good or not, or is
Hmm.
our competitive players too whiny. I guess it has to do with the ideologies that they wanted this game to be as devs. And if you think
Hmm.
about how many devs left and came, because we had Von Yip
Yeah,
leaving
Yes.
and then Robin Zoo stepping up. So we had a lot
And
of
then,
different shifts. And
exactly.
we can say, I
yeah.
guess I'm not wrong to say that they were, touch and go for a while with what they wanted this game to be.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was really interesting. At the first paragraph of this, Dave Guskin mentions that he was previously a game and design director and moved into an executive producer role. And Dave Guskin is a competitively minded card game player, and so I'm 100% certain that his increase in responsibility, uh, coupled with the fact that they kind of viewed Path as like a complete game that if they wanted to like reiterate on it, it would take an immense amount of commitment. I think that Dave becoming the executive producer, excuse me, Dave Guskin, I shouldn't first name him, but Dave Guskin moving into the executive producer role definitely solidified the fact that they wanted to recognize that the PvP mode of Legends of Runeterra is, as they mentioned multiple times in this article, the core gameplay for this game.
Mhm.
it is fundamentally a player versus player experience that they want to push, you know?
Exactly.
And so I'm really excited about this because it really feels like they are figuring out who they are and what they want to do for the game. Like you were saying, Joey, their identity of being split between Path of Champions, PvP, campaign, story game, and ladder. They can just focus on like producing the best PvP experience now. And I think that's super valuable.
I agree. And I think they're doing a great job by now. Like, we have one of the best betters ever. I always have to point it out, like, when people come in, what deck is tier 0 right now, what deck should I bring to easy climb to diamond, and like, there's no deck with a higher win rate than 54%. And that's
Right.
just like, they did an amazing job on this expansion. So many different archetypes being viable, like 17 different decks being played at more than 1% in Masters. And it's really good.
Yeah.
And I also think that they wanted, as you said, this experience should be the core experience for LoR. So imagine if they took the different way. Imagine if they took a different turn there and they decided to focus on path. And then, like, in 2 years or 3 years, the only thing that Legends of Runeterra was known for is path.
Yeah.
Imagine like you open up Twitch and then you see like Legends of Runeterra have like 20k views or something really big, like 100k views, and every single one of the streamers is path. Would that be what you want the game to be as a dev?
Right.
Really, right? Yeah.
Right.
I'm thinking back to one thing you said, that Joe, you tried to play Path on stream, you said, and like your viewership dropped by half or something. Did I remember that correctly?
Yeah. Always.
Wow.
Every time. It's not just me. Every time, like a competitive streamer or someone that plays, competitive first, I guess. And this also takes part, right? The audience is used to something else. But every time you try to shift to path, it always ends up like a very terrible experience, because it's not like I feel like for the PvP experience, sometimes you have people who want to play PvP, but they sometimes they want to take a break, so they hop on someone's stream, and maybe they are playing in their phone or on a second monitor while they are watching the stream for PvP. But for path, I think the more you watch people play path, the more you want to play path yourself.
Exactly.
And then you don't want to watch anymore. You don't want to watch anymore, right? Like you see the person maybe choosing a different legendary power that you would, and then you feel like maybe this would be so much better, or choosing a different champion to complement the deck. And like watching path doesn't make you watch path. It makes you want to play path, and that is very good. But for the Twitch viewership, it is very bad, because you lose viewers very, very quickly. I guess the content creation for path is still a mystery for many of us content creators, because like there's just so much you can do with a single player experience.
That's true.
And I've recently seen some other content creators who just focus completely on path and get some big views on YouTube, but on Twitch I never saw it pop off. My personal opinion is that the best form to convey path content is like in articles, because like 60 or 90% of the actual fights and stuff can't be really applied to each run, because when I play Bard with Zoe and one power, it will be a completely different one than with an Ashe and different power. So the actual gameplay, people don't really get that much from it. And just like general strategies and deck lists, stuff like that, it could be a better approach to the mode. But it's exactly, sure, you described it perfectly. Like whenever I watch someone play Path, I'm like, yeah, I could continue watching this, or I could just play myself, increase my legend level, increase my champion level. Look, I'm already level 17, so let's just play myself. It's not a waste of time. Whereas when I watch competitive people, I'm like, aha, I learned a new line, I learned something new about the game. And it's just so much more interesting. And it's like also more interesting because it's not like you auto win each time, but it's actually a struggle to win on like high master ladder. Maybe most of the streamers are exciting. Do they win? Do they lose? Do they misplay? And I find it,
I think this time. Go ahead.
just one last thing. I also watched like Grappler, the biggest, without probably biggest lore streamer, play Path, and I think he didn't lose that many audience people, but he already plays more meme decks. I think if you as a competitive streamer, go over to Path, and it's kind of bad. But if you just always play meme decks and are successful with that, then you can more easily switch over to Path.
Yeah, but Twitch viewership is a very complex problem. Like it's not just about path and lore. Even lore itself, like the PvP experience, it's still a mystery box for the Twitch viewership because we know we have like millions of players. Where are they? They're not on YouTube. They're not on Twitch. Maybe they are on the Google Store comment section or Reddit or somewhere.
That's true.
But they are not on Twitch or YouTube. So it's the Twitch viewership thing is a bit of a more complex problem than just path or PvP.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, I think that Twitch is such a funny platform for video game streaming because initially, in the past it was just in TV and it was a purely competitive space for the best players to showcase. And it's, become a very social platform where people will watch other people just playing games. And so, hearing you guys talk about how watching Path makes you want to play Path, it kind of makes me feel like how I feel personally when I participate and watch other people playing like let's plays of just player versus player or excuse me, like story games.
It's the single
I'll want to play it.
It's a single player experience. Like the really good thing about the single player experience is the how personal you can make the game.
Yeah.
And if you watch someone else play, it's not personal at all.
Yeah.
So even when you watch Let's Play, maybe sometimes you get someone, oh, I'm trying to do this very difficult challenge inside this game. Maybe it's a made up challenge. And that's something we have not seen so much as with Path, I think. Like, okay, I'm going to do this run with, I don't know, whatever champion. But what if I just, I have a rule here in my imaginary run that I can only pass for 4 turns, or that I can only play 2 cost units, or whatever. This is a different type of content.
Yeah, that's really funny.
I tried it a little bit with like milling out every encounter, not like actually willing to damage, but like milling everybody, but just like kind of was a little bit boring. I found that it had like 2 or 3 viewers at peak, but I understand that this is not the most exciting content.
Yeah, I think another thing that goes into it is the fact that Path is just so accessible, along with Legends of Runeterra. I think there's so many times where people are like, why am I going to watch this when I can just play it and experience the fullness of the game? Compared to people who watch like Hearthstone or other story-based games where maybe they haven't been able to purchase the game or maybe they just don't have the cards that they want to watch be played. And I think that Path and Legends of Runeterra, because it's so easy to build your own collection and so easy to interact with the game yourself as an individual, you don't really have to look for experiences to have through other people playing the game.
Exactly.
Like why would you watch ladder even? Just play ladder yourself. You have that deck. You know what I mean? Unless you're watching someone who's like extremely better than you. And I think that's kind of what we were touching on was like people want to watch the best players play because what they're not able to access in those moments is the skill level, And so they can't take that experience into their own LOR because they're not good enough. You know what I mean? And I think that's why a lot of people will defer to only watching competitive or high skilled players and not watching Path because you could just play Path yourself. I think it's really, really silly. But I how did you guys feel about the devs, or at least Dave Guskin and the Legends of Runeterra team, saying that PvP is the core gameplay for Legends of Runeterra and that Path of Champions is simply a game mode?
So Reddit had a lot to say about that. Like they were like,
okay, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, they were like, how do you say that Path people were not the core of the game when like 3 months ago you said that it was the most popular game mode? Like how do you have like a 90% player base or something maybe, at
Oh, was
least
it that severe?
50%. No, it was at least like 50
Okay.
or 60% of the player base being path players, and then 3 months later you say that they are not the core of the game. Like, it's not something I feel like it's statistical as much as it has to do with what I was saying about ideology. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they want the core to be
Hmm.
PvP now, and
Yes.
later, like 2020 and 2022, whoever is in charge looks at lore and says the core of this game is PvP, no matter what the number says. They want the core of the game to be PvP, and that's fair.
And I think that's valid because, like you mentioned previously, at the beginning of LoR's inception, it was noted to be a player versus player experience that they wanted to make different. And I think when it comes to the verbiage in the article specifically, one of the things that they specify is that PvP is the core gameplay, and they want to hyperserve the core PvP player base. I don't think that they actually say that the PvP, or excuse me, the path player base is not the core. Does that make sense? They say that PvP is the core of Legends of Runeterra, which it is because Path was built off of Legends of Runeterra, and Legends of Runeterra is a PvP game. And so that the PvP player base is now who they're trying to address. Because I feel like for like the past year or two, the PvP player base for Legends of Runeterra has been like very upset all the time.
Yeah, I would touch up on that because I think if this article was not titled and direction as a shift, but rather
Yes.
we are focusing more on PvP,
More. Mm-hmm.
path people would not be mad at all. That's what I was
Right.
thinking about, because path people have what they want. I don't think that path
Yeah.
people are very as whiny. I'm going to say this word, but don't take it seriously, okay? As demanding, better wording,
Yeah.
as demanding of the competitive players. If you just built this
Yeah.
article as we're focusing on PvP a little bit more now, path people would not
Mhm.
even read this. It doesn't concern them.
They wouldn't.
Exactly.
It doesn't
Yeah.
really concern them, and they would carry on as if nothing happened, and not
And they probably wouldn't even notice.
they wouldn't even notice because path is already out. Path 2.0 is already out. Any feedback that they would have for this first week, we know it would be addressed because it is being addressed.
Mhm.
The chart
Exactly.
system and everything would still be the same for path people, but the PvP player base, which is
Very
remarkably more demanding than the path
Mhm.
people,
Mhm.
would get what they want, which is to feel.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this word because sometimes I'm a teacher, so I connect some things. There's always that student that doesn't need more work or more homework. They need attention, and that's the competitive player base. They need
Yeah.
attention. No,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
not bad. It's just the characteristic of this player base. They need
Mhm.
attention constantly.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of
Yeah.
on the game mode as well, because like in Path you can do crazy stuff, you can do different strategies. It's like all random, all new, but like
It's always
always
different.
different, always shaping up differently. But if you like just play PvP, you just have the same 5 decks running to each other, or the same 10 decks. It's like still 100 matchups,
Well.
but at the end of the day, then
Mhm.
you will have
Mhm.
figured it out at some point.
And people for competitive play, they get tired a lot faster. For instance, nowadays we are 2 weeks in the new season, and people are already complaining about trolls.
Yes,
They want
it's so
trolls.
Oh
crazy.
my
It gets so
god.
crazy.
Like, it's 2 weeks in, and they get tired so easily, so easily. Like, for people who have been playing this game for so long, like before,
Mhm.
we had 2 to 2 months expansions. Do you remember the Buildwater expansion? We had like 4 months of only Buildwater, and the last 2 months of Buildwater expansion was just Ash Sejuani all around, and
Yup.
there's nothing else to play.
I remember
And
that.
we are okay. I guess we are not happy, but like, compare this to now, where people get tired of decks after 2 weeks in.
Mhm.
Like, it seems
I know.
silly.
We're so
It's silly.
spoiled.
And it feels like
It's
people
so
just
silly.
want to complain for the sake of complaining because they have seen that
Yeah.
complaining does something in this game. And yeah, they just like try. Like, how often I have to like say, like very often on these public discords, And like I have to say, like 4 times a day, as well as only has like a 52% win rate. It's insanely balanced. Just calm down. Vigo Noxus is not breaking the game. It's just a normal deck with 54%, and like, it's just really frustrating that everybody just. It looks like people just search for ways to complain nowadays. Without
Yeah,
just
they
making
want
it.
to blame
Mhm.
anything. They want to blame anything but themselves, I guess.
Mhm.
For when I get bad at this game, or when I
Ooh.
get tilted, I blame
Mhm.
myself. Like probably I'm the problem here. And then we have the biggest part of the player base, which is like probably the devs are the problem here.
Uh-huh.
I think
Uh-huh.
this kind of comes from League of Legends, because in League of Legends you can always blame the jungler, you
Oof.
can always blame, I don't know, the loser queue, whatever. But this is kind of like, this is not like a 10-player game. This is a 2-player game, so you have
Mhm.
to search
Mhm.
different things to blame if you're used to not blaming yourself.
Yeah. I think that at the end of the day, the competitive player base is fundamentally playing the game a lot more than anybody else. You know what I mean? They pound ladder and they slam those rank games, and I don't blame them for getting sick, but I just think that it's like also an unhealthy expectation that they're holding towards the game and the devs, you know, where we are getting patch notes and more changes than ever.
Yeah,
You know, the game is fundamentally getting shifted around by Riot's live balance philosophy for Legends of Runeterra pretty frequently, and you know I do believe that they're doing a good job of making the game more healthy. Um, and I think that the complaints, while a lot of them are valid, I don't think that a lot of them are very productive.
exactly.
You know, people will just complain about situations in the game and not really understand why they're upset about it
Yeah.
and what could even be done about
Yeah.
it, right? I think a big one was a couple weeks ago. When what was the announcement? There was an announcement that came out, and I think it was about, man, I forgot what it
At
was.
this
Oh, it was
point,
because of this. Yeah, exactly. There's just so many things that people complain about,
yeah,
but I
no,
think what it was,
I
it
was
was
talking about the amount of announcements. At this point, we have the announcement about the
oh,
announcement about the announcement, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
getting a
crazy.
little
that is true.
tiring.
Yeah,
Everything is announced.
yeah. But I was I remember back when the last seasonal there was the network issues that were
Yeah.
plaguing a lot of the competitive players, and you know a lot of people were crying out that the developers specifically do not care about competitive, you know, Legends of Runeterra, and a lot of like assumptions were being made. You know, people were saying that devs are going out of their way to make it a worse experience for, you know, PvP players. And it's just that kind of reaction is just so
Yeah.
ridiculous to me. Like you have these developers who are so passionate and so in love with the game and the community that they've created. And you know, you see that throughout this announcement as well. The where they'll say that the competitiveness of the game, the engagement with the community, and the frequent updates are the heartbeat of Legends of Runeterra. And I think that that's very important to recognize that at the end of the day, the developers love Legends of Runeterra. They want to see it succeed, and they want to see the community succeed.
Yeah, at
I
this
think they also
point,
recognize that path players don't matter.
Yeah.
yeah, at this point, I think if you want to blame someone, like I wouldn't personally go for, the person responsible for taking care of seasonal system issues
Mhm.
is Rotten Candy. And like I wouldn't
Mhm.
go for Rotten Candy in any time of
No.
day because they are taking care of three seasonals at the same time. If more, I'm
Yeah.
going after Riot for not for understaffing their team.
Yes.
Like the
And
main
that's the stakeholder and like executives.
yeah the main issue that I find with lore organization and business mode right now is that I think that they are severely understaffed, and the transferring
Hmm.
of devs touches up on this. Like I feel personally that they had to make a decision about their team. They had to cut some people for one instance or another, and they decided to cut down path people and redirect to PvP. And I don't think we are
That's
redirecting at all. We're just keeping the same people on PvP, but for the public, it will seem as a redirect. And
hmm.
like it's still severely understaffed. Like think about one person for all three seasons. Like
Yeah.
that's That's
It's just not
tough.
sustainable.
Not sustainable. And you have the same problem, for last season. We had the same problem going on for the first seasonal that was happening. And then the announcement came that they were going to be the same issues for the next ones. And I talked about
Yeah.
with the competitive players that I know. I was like, people, they warned us that this was going to happen. If you want to be mad at something, you can just, riot and then, don't participate in the seasons because they warned us that this was happening. If you want to take a stand, then don't play seasons. Make a stand,
Mm-hmm.
do something. But
Yeah.
complaining about the issues that we had already known about and trying to blame
Right.
one person, the one
Yeah.
person that is trying to
I know.
juggle all these seasonals.
Right.
That's so crazy. Like I remember Wick, you did like a watch party for all of them and just sat there and like discussed the season as you didn't like manage them. Just imagine staying up
Mhm.
like all the time and actually managing the background issues. It's like so crazy.
It's impossible, dude. Like it's a 16-hour event, globally, across like so many different time zones.
So crazy.
And I think it is a lot for one person. And Joey, I have a hard time agreeing with you
Yeah.
on the evaluation that they said we need to cut and reduce cost in the Legends of Runeterra team, so let's cut Path. The way I read this was them saying, hey, we finished Path 2.0. Let's start thinking about 3.0. And they said, if we want to go to 3.0, that's going to be a huge step. That huge step requires way more than what we currently have. So let's just not do that. Okay, now we have all these devs that are doing nothing. The PvP side of Legends of Runeterra is chilling. Okay, well, look, Riot Games, they have a bunch of other projects that they're working on. Let's lend out these developers. And they use the word lend. I don't know if you guys registered that, but they specifically use the word lend.
That's
They said,
that's PR talk, Wick.
I mean, maybe, but someone specifically chose to use the word lend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's still pure talk. And I agree with you. I actually think that your vision of what happened is probably true as well, because I think you're looking at
Yes, as well.
You're looking at what happened internally with the lore team, and I'm thinking of what happened to the higher up execs. I think someone from the main Riot office came down and was like, okay, this is the half year, quarterly, whatever reports on what we are doing, and I need you to cut some people or reduce your cost somehow. And they internally had this discussion that you were talking about.
And I also think like you can, if you really play the mode a lot, like if you play Path of Champions a lot, like I did, I just build up every encounter. You notice that some parts just seem unfinished, even in this part.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
For example, if you look at like the Lulu level, this like part just has Lulu level again. This is starting level here. It's literally the same fight twice.
And we had some regions on the video promoting Path that are not inside the game yet, and
exactly.
they are probably either coming in a later date or they weren't finished, and then they just got cut off.
Yeah. And for example, the Ani event, the 2-star event, is Lulu again. So sometimes you just have like, I'm sure the people working on Path would have liked to do like a completely different campaign on Ani, for example, but they just didn't have the time to finish it, and instead had to like work on other parts like the champion system and the shard system. The other thing, like the shard system, the champion shards, is like something you develop very late. How you unlock the stuff champion levels, because usually you just play like with fully unlockable accounts, I would say, when testing. So maybe that's why they didn't really flesh that out.
Realize, yeah.
I definitely feel
and it's
in
still
some
a lot
points.
Of content too.
Totally. It's like over 100 different fights. It's like more content than Elden Ring almost. Just count the different fights.
What we have is a lot of content, and we would still get more. Like Path people got a little bit too ambitious, feels like.
That's what I think. I think that Riot and the Legends of Runeterra team bit off more they could chew with Path, and then they realized they're like, wow, this is its own game. This is bigger than Legends of Runeterra. Like, Path cannot exist healthily inside lore.
At some point, it wouldn't be lore.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It would become Path of Champions, and then on the lore like engine,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever.
Yeah, it
And I
would be
think that that's very much.
battlegrounds inside Hearthstone.
Ha! Right, right. And that, I mean, Battlegrounds inside Hearthstone, isn't that? No, BG Battlegrounds is like TFT, right? But don't they
Yeah.
have like another? Like Hearthstone has a campaign mode. Am I correct?
Dungeon runs and stuff.
I have
Yes.
no idea.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they added some player versus environment capabilities that tanked. I don't think they did very well.
No. Like they had like 3 different modes. And the first one, Dungeon Run, that was like in 2016 or something. That was like super popular. Like back then I was playing.
What is the new one?
It had a pretty shitty system as well. You have to like buy mercenaries, and you can't buy them with like
Mercenaries,
in-game currency.
yes.
So you have to actually buy new packs. It's like just a gigantic money grab. That's why it failed. But the actual counterpart to Path, like Dungeon Runs, was super popular back then. Like,
Gotcha.
And that's another thing that we can touch upon. Like the monetization for a path is like not ideal.
Yeah.
Not ideal. I'm going to say this like very softly. Not ideal.
I think we can say it's hot garbage. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like
it's not ideal.
all they could literally just give like the ability to buy champions, just that one thing, and make more money off of it. And you know that kind of goes back to one of my biggest concerns with Legends of Runeterra and the relationship that what we perceive the relationship is, I should say, that the stakeholders and high up executives kind of have with the game, where like a lot of people assume that Legends of Runeterra must not be making money. That's why it's not getting the attention that the other games are getting. And I wonder like why they would, like, if the game wasn't making money, I would assume that they would just put more ways to make money into the game, and they're not. You know, like we just got champion skins like not too long ago, and there's not many ways to spend money in this game.
Sad.
Like, period. Yeah. And so from my uneducated point of view, if I was an executive and I wanted to make more money off of Legends of Runeterra, I would force my developers to put in more like microtransaction stuff into it. And the fact that that's not happening, I am very confused, because it's like, okay, so do we have a monetary problem or not?
Yeah.
Because like if we had a monetary problem, I feel like they would try to address it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not like the player base doesn't want to spend money. Like if you talk to any of the players, the competitive players and the path players, they want to throw money at this game.
Yeah.
And they run out of ways to do it in a pleasurable way, because like prismatics is not a fun way to spend your money on this game.
No. Well, because you can get it for free, right?
Yeah,
it's harder to spend money on things that you can earn for free in game.
And it's not visually appealing for me. Like I don't care about a golden border on my champions. Like I saw some other card game cosmetics which had an animation for the cards, which I would think would be pretty cool. I personally have the idea to have a pass button skin, which I think would also be really cool. Like there are so many things that we can do for the monetization that are not being done, like Wick said, that make us believe that this is not a problem with the money.
And like it's just really hard. Like one person once calculated on Reddit, if you literally buy everything, like all of the cards in the game for money, and all of the cosmetics, and all of the skins, all of the prismatics even, then you can at max spend around 5,000 euros on Path on Legends of Runeterra at all. Like if you buy everything, that's like some people, like I'm sure people have spent like more than 5,000 on Hearthstone regularly.
I have known people like competitive players who don't want to grind or have no time to grind. For instance, we had a Brazilian Magic player here, Sanduichi, who started playing Legends of Runeterra, and way back it was when the Nasus came out, and he was like, "Oh, I built Nasus for like $1." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
$1. I got the main Tier 0 deck of the season and whatever. That's it. He just played that to Masters. He played that to Masters, from Iron to Masters.
Yeah. I think that the game is exceptionally gracious and generous with how it rewards players who just spend time in the game, I think monetization and progress were something that the developers were very aware about at the very beginning of the game. Like if we look and scroll down to like the very first announcements after they released Runeterra, one of the first comments that they try to make back in October is, building a better game through progression. Like what does it mean in card games to grow your collection and be able to play what you want to play? And it's kind of crazy because this game gives you so many cards. I'm literally getting comments from people saying that like this game gives you so many cards that it's boring to get new cards.
Yeah, I heard that. Like, okay, now I have the full collection. Now what? Like
Mhm.
people whose
Yeah.
main point of playing the game is to have a collection will be very frustrated with this game because it just gives you the collection like very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's such a crazy quote unquote complaint to have with the game. But I also like kind of see how that makes sense. You kind of want to have a reason to
play.
come back, right? But if you, I don't know, like it's so hard for me to grasp. I don't know, man. Like
It's like
this game is very generous.
Yeah, it's like the biggest, strongest points of this game are also the weakest points of this game.
Yeah.
Like
It's
the monetization,
crazy, yeah.
the monetization and the
Free to play, by the way.
free to play aspect of it, and like the path being so cool to play that you don't want to watch anyone play it. Like the biggest strengths of this game are also its biggest weakness
Yeah,
to many different factors.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think like
Even like the complexity. Oh, go ahead.
I think people just want to have a feeling that they don't waste their time by playing games, that they kind of just achieve something with it. And like I've been crafting like, the whole collection each time for the last 3 expansions on the first day, which is kind of crazy. But then for the rest of the time, like what am I even grinding for? What am I even playing for? And if I like play Path, at least I get like champion levels and stuff. So it feels like I'm not wasting my time as much as playing on ladder, for example, and just literally grinding for like virtual points. LP, for example, yeah. And I think this is kind of what makes people quote unquote addicted to your game, and this is what LoR doesn't do. But that kind of also is why not that many people are like grinding the game as much as other games, where they just feel like they have to grind, like Magic, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, also some of the rewards are just, unbalanced. Like for instance, if you have, the top players, they play seasonals and they get
Yeah.
prismatic chest. Like
Yep.
what?
They get a
And
prismatic
the same card back that they designed like 8-9 seasons ago.
Yeah.
The cup.
Just could like a new one.
The
Just
cup.
Yeah.
Like
they
we
can make
don't
one every season.
Yeah.
So for instance, the World Expectator 2021, it says that it's 2021. Like you could build different card backs for each of the seasonals, which could have, different aspects, different characteristics, and would feel more personal, and the players would feel a bit better to have them. But you don't. You have, whatever, the same thing. And also when you have, for instance, we still have, I guess nothing's changed when people said, oh, what is the rewards for playing ranked before seasonals was a thing, getting an icon. It's still an icon.
Yes.
I
have so many icons now.
I have so many icons.
It's still an icon, and we don't get the previous rank elos icons either. So for instance, you have some seasons where the best icon is for iron or something, and you don't get to you don't get to use that. You just get to use the filthy masters icon of the season. So it's just the rewards themselves could be a lot better. And like they throw free stuff at you, and it's not necessarily free stuff that you want.
And it's just kind of getting redundant. Like, what am I doing with 5 more icons? What am I doing? Like, I have 46 emotes and 24 boards. What am I doing with 1 more board?
46 emotes that you can equip all of at once.
Yeah.
You just need to pick 6.
Exactly. It's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, there's so many emotes that I own that I've never used, And it's too, I don't know. It's so Mm.
It's a tough egg to crack. Tough thing to talk about. Like I used to think that boards were the biggest, cosmetics to get because I really like boards.
I agree.
But like if you think about path, you don't even get to choose your board.
You get to choose your board.
Oh,
You
yeah, you do.
get now? Oh, thank
You
God.
did before as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of hidden.
Because you couldn't, right? You couldn't.
You
couldn't
yes.
choose the champion skin. I thought I saw someone.
I think you might be thinking about the previous, like the Gangplank one, like the not before Path.
Oh, I see.
Labs was also possible.
There was a lab that you couldn't equip anything, and I was like,
but
that's disgusting.
I made a Reddit post where I said I want to spend more money on the game and they should make Champions Prismatic. And 2 weeks later, they made the ability for Level of Legends to equip your own boards and make Champions Prismatic. So I take the blame for that.
You did it.
Congrats.
You did
but right
that.
now you can just when you go into a fight, you can actually choose this in the bottom right corner here.
Yeah, it lets you choose your build out or whatever.
Yeah, where are our exclusive path rewards too? We just get the card backs, the 3 cards backs for path 1. Like, where is my skin exclusive path? Path exclusive skin.
I mean, those card backs were sick, all right?
You know my opinion on them. I didn't like them at all.
What?
I thought
you
they
didn't
were...
like? I know you. I remember you telling us that. I was surprised.
You remember? I saw them and I was like, this is, not what I was looking for. Like, I was expecting something bigger. And I think for Worlds too, when Alan Z won the Worlds, I was sure they would make a Victorious Draven skin.
Oh
yeah,
for 2021. And we didn't. It was the biggest, the most played champion in that tournament, and we didn't get anything other than the expectator to prove that you were there for the Worlds. At this point, who even remembers Worlds anymore?
Yeah.
I remember that flash bomb that landed on the Leviathan, opening up for the the Scorched Earth. I thought that was a pretty pog moment. Not gonna lie. But no, I think I agree that I think this kind of all ties back to the fact that we just want more ways to give Riot money.
Yeah.
It's so funny, right? We're saying that we want better free stuff, but we also want more ways to spend money.
Yes.
Yeah, we
and
want
that's just like
better free stuff, more ways to spend money so that you can build a bigger team of devs and we don't get another season of issues. That's it.
Yeah. I don't know. They had issues at MSI. Like if they're gonna have issues at like literally the premier competitive event for their #1 game, League of Legends, I don't think anybody can have any expectations for any lore event that's hosted by Riot to go smoother than like a game that they're pouring billions of dollars in annually. Like, it's just like such a crazy expectation. You know what I mean? And I think that's like an issue that a lot of players have is like they look at what Riot's doing with League, they look at what Riot's doing with Valorant and how popular TFT is, and they're like, why isn't Legends of Runeterra popular? Why isn't Legends of Runeterra get? And
always remember that Legends of Runeterra is killing TFT. Always remember.
True. Gotta thank Soju for reminding us that our little game is the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. I'm glad that you brought that up. I always try to make fun of that. That's such a ridiculous moment.
But for the next seasonals, it is said by the powers that be that there won't be any other issues because of what they're doing to put both sections at the same weekend. So But
interesting.
I talked to someone who programs a lot of this stuff, and they said like to keep something this window open in 2 different instances of time can be what's causing the issues, the network issues. So maybe I don't know. Talk to someone who is a programmer, not a Riot. Nothing Riot. Maybe because we're going to have the open rounds and the top 32 on consecutive days, that there won't be any problems. But let's rage, I guess.
Yeah, let's just hope.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed from the article still is they said that the Riot, like Legend of Terra, shares the love with other games now, or they share the love around other games. What I would wish is that some other games share love with Legends of Runeterra. For example, like how Hearthstone did it. If you played Hearthstone for a while and you got like a patch
Oh,
in
yeah.
World of Warcraft, for example, why don't we have that? Why you get a little egg if you install lore or something. You get like a I don't know a ward with a card back on something. Like, nobody will use this ward anyways, but it's a nice thing. It will make people.
But people will get it,
It's
right?
going to be another free reward that is not going to matter at all. But it's
Oh my god.
Yeah, but it's like bringing
Yeah.
people from LoL to Legends of Runeterra. And it's just like, aha, this game exists.
Yeah.
It's not like TFT where I literally have like a stupid quest that I can't remove. That tilts me every time I open it.
Oh my god, I hate that little light.
Yes, it's so annoying.
Yeah,
It's crazy. I've talked to people. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You too. You first.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I talked to people who like literally just found out that Legends of Runeterra existed like last week.
Yeah. It's
after like
insane.
constantly playing League of Legends for like the full 2 years that it's been out. They're like, how have I never heard about this? And I'm like, well, you can just blame Riot. And okay, so this kind of goes back into all of this that we're complaining about, right? Like, okay, so like Riot, let us give you money. Riot, spend more money on marketing. Like, I don't know, like it's crazy. Like,
and
poke it with a stick to do something.
Do anything.
Poke it with a stick full of money. Do something right.
Poke stick.
And
poke stick full of money. Do something.
And maybe we should just like not immediately say that you don't really have to do that. Like it's not like the game is dying. You have to fix it or something. So when people misunderstand it, like randomly when we say do something, it's just that we feel like Legends of Runeterra could be so much more, could be so much better, and could make so much more money as well. Like just let us turn our our path powers prismatic or something. Let us turn our opponent's deck prismatic. We can upgrade Gallius deck for 100 gems or 100 coins.
And we have plenty of quality of life changes that are still not in the game. Like I can still not add an opponent or get the deck the opponent was playing.
I can still not give people stuff. Like, let's say I want to give this guy, this guy to have the skin. Like, I just can't do it.
Yeah,
I know plenty of competitive players who have a lot of coins. Like a lot of coins, and they just sit there because they have they have what they want, and they wish they could gift someone, and they can't. So it's you have that. You have not having a search option for your friends. You don't have groups for your your contacts, which could be really good for tournament organizers to put people inside teams.
Yes.
Like we have so much stuff. I still am waiting for they to merge the ending screens of the game. Like I don't need to see the chest, then the quest, then the rank. Then like put this all in one screen, please. And I know it's possible because Path has it. Path has the end of run screen, which we have everything there. So he has it. It's possible.
And it's also like just so crazy with like Path. You don't have to do this like weird zooming in and zooming out animation. I know it's kind of important for like the seeing what your opponent is playing, with decks your opponent is playing, but imagine just like a big Path Champions like screen where you just have one deck on the split side, one deck on the other split side, and then it just loads in after 3 seconds without zooming in and out. You just see your mulligan immediately. I feel like you just lose so much time between each match. You just have to like click through 5 screens, and then you have to watch animations for like 10 more seconds. You just spend 1 minute between each game not playing the game. It's just kind of frustrating to play a lot of games in a row.
Yeah, I wonder if the sort of quality of life things that they added to Path exclusively, like that cute little loading screen and all those other things. I wonder if as they stop, putting so much effort into Path as a priority, if those little quality of life things will start appearing in PvP without them ever mentioning it. Because I feel like that's just how Riot does things. They just do things and they never mention it.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh, I guess that's in the game. Like the mulligans, like now that you can see your opponent, how many cards they mulliganed away, and it's like a lot of people didn't even know that was new.
And you get so many Yes, and elusive icon. I'm
Yes.
so happy about this. Like,
Yeah.
literally,
Card count, elusive icon, all those things just not included in the patch notes, you know, not explained. And like they do that thing where they're like various improvements. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
yes,
Like, there are various improvements, bro. Like, come on.
And also the the very specific changes to mechanics hidden in bug fixes. Like,
yes.
can we stop
Yes.
that?
Not even mentioned at all.
Huge.
Changes like with the Braum change, for
Yeah.
example. Braum doesn't like in combat if you have 6 slots and then Braum gets hit, you summon a pro, and now the pro gets obliterated. It's like stuff that wasn't even mentioned at all. I just stealth nerf Braum and Leo and stuff. It's just like, yeah,
yeah.
We have many things that
I
can
feel
be,
like
we have many things that can be brought as constructive
Mhm.
criticism,
Mhm.
and all people seem to know how to do is say the game is dying. Like,
Yes.
stop saying
It's
the
so
game is
stupid.
dying and go after whatever it
crazy.
is that is specifically tilting you. Like, for instance,
Right.
I hate to play against trolls every game. Okay, then ask for best of 3 ladder or gauntlet all week round. I don't know, but be specific, because that's the thing about constructive criticisms. You need to be specific and somehow
It needs to be constructive.
tone down. Yeah, you need to tone down a bit of the emotion. Like, you don't need to tone it all down, but like, stop, breathe, touch some grass, and come back.
And I've talked to a bunch of these doomsayers, like in DMs and stuff, and they sometimes aren't even aware what they're doing with the game. They just like complain and they just jump on this train if the game is dying. And when I'm like, what do you think a new player will think when they come in? They're like, oh my god, terrible shard system and stuff. And I ask them, yeah, what do you think they will see? And they're like, you're right. I kind of love this game, and I don't just, this tiny little thing is annoying me, so I'm like making it a big deal and say the game is dying. But actually, I would love to help the people into the game, and they like literally stop doom posting and change all the names from LoR's dying to just normal names. It was like what was very satisfying, because I think most people aren't even aware of the destructiveness that this game is dying is actually have on the game itself and the people that are playing it.
I wonder how much. So, returning back to this announcement, there's a moment at the end in the third to last paragraph where it says the competitiveness of the game, our engagement with the community, and our frequent updates are the heartbeat of lore. I've already mentioned this one, right? How do you guys feel about what they mentioned about the competitiveness of the game? That part, do you think that they mean that in regards to like the video game card game scene? Like, are they talking about like how competitive the game is against like Hearthstone or even like TFT or whatever? Like, or do you think they're talking about like the PvP aspects and the competition that people can experience in the game?
I'm not really sure, but I think it's
both.
more, both, exactly, that they don't just want
Okay.
to meme game modes and stuff like that, or just like meme cards that I don't see play anywhere, but I just always want to have like interesting competitive back and forth.
Yeah. Okay, I think that was just confusing me because I was like, what do they mean by that? Like, are they talking about like how it's not like that popular of a game mode, so it's not competitive in regards to like what it does in the scene? I don't know. I think these last couple paragraphs were really funny to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it talks about how they're gonna do frequent updates, and I'm like, okay, and they are engaging with the community more, which I think that is one of the biggest things. The second point, our engagement with the community. I think we've all seen an uptick in developer interactions across the web, and they're working so hard to just like kind of shut down misinformation and address concerns.
Yeah,
I
think that
not just like shut down in like censoring and stuff, but just you can ask, like literally can tweet at Riot Dev and they respond to me. I'm like so proud of that.
Yeah, I also think like we can circle back to the destructive talk, because the more destructive we are, the less devs are going to take us seriously.
Exactly.
Like, do you realize that if everything we say is negative and general and broad, not specific and complaining, devs won't know what is actually the problem. Like, you need to tackle specific things. If you don't, devs are going to be looking at the community and will be like, okay, but I don't understand what you're saying. You're just spewing hate. And this is not my fault. I don't know what you want. It's like a crying baby, and you don't know
Yes.
what he
Yeah.
wants.
You're
So
just screaming.
you're just screaming. You need to be specific. So, for instance, I had a friend mention Rubin Zoo because he asked me who they should mention because it was a skin issue. So I was like, I don't know, mention Rubin Zoo, maybe he knows. So they asked Rubin Zoo about the Peacemaker, the Caitlyn Peacemaker Impulse Fire not
Oh, I
having,
saw that. Yeah.
not having
The special art,
yeah,
the alternative art.
the alternative art. And they were like, when it's getting ad or something, and Rubin Zoo was like, oh, we're looking into it. And that's what it should be. You mention the dev regarding a specific issue and you get a response, not just the game is dying because devs are leaving or whatever.
Yeah. Just imagine like going to a doctor and you're like, I'm sick and I'm dying and I feel terrible. And dev is like, doctor is like, what's wrong with you? And you're like, I'm dying. What is doctor supposed to be doing?
Right. It's not actionable.
And the disintegrate discourse is actually a pretty I try to be as specific as possible as I could with the disintegrate, because I was like, okay, this actually is working as intended, so I won't mention this. But like the barrier, what tilts me the most about this card is not even this card. If you look at barrier, it has a very confusing text where it says negates the next damage. Like, and that word is just used. It's just
negate.
Yeah, it uses negates, and that word is just used for this and like only this. So it's very, very weird. And that's what I would tackle. I would mention Robin. It's like this text, induces people to the wrong idea with disintegrate or something. Like, because you need to be specific. Like constructive criticism, guys. Please do not just complain about disintegrate being broken. Look after what do you think it's broken about the card.
And like Joey, do you know that these tooltips are kind of useless across the board? Like I read every single one of them for the rule book.
Yeah.
And like if you look at Scout, it just says like the first time only Scout units attack each round, ready your attack.
Yeah, they are very confusing. They are very confusing.
Ready your attack. It should say rally.
Yes. Yeah, they're very confusing, and this is also something that I wanted more. Like people were mentioning the possibility of having an in-client rulebook, which could be updated.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, that is very good, but I don't think that's viable. What I would really like is to update the tooltips, not only to keywords, but also to wording such as survives damage or takes damage or something like that, so people know what this means. It's better than for you to build a whole rule book that is probably going to be 150 pages, and it needs to be, commissioned work that is going to take a lot of the team to build, and you can, solve this problem another way. Yeah.
I think that's like a really interesting point. And I think a lot of people have made that criticism of Legends of Runeterra that it's way too complicated of a game. Like obviously games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic are very complicated as well, but those do come with rulebooks, fundamentally. They come with rulebooks. And I think the Legends of Runeterra client does a very good job of educating players with the hoverable tooltips, but as we've seen with Barrier and Rally, those aren't fully accurate. And I think a lot of times we run into the instances of quote unquote Riot wording, whether that's with effects or whether that's with tooltips or micro copy that they put into the game. It's very confusing. I mean, we had that whole discourse about the way that the tentacles would work,
Yeah, and
spawn.
It's
whether
still
it would
wrong.
spawn one.
It's still wrong. It still says give it. I think it should be grant.
It's a grant.
Yes.
It's a grant.
Yeah.
So yeah, it still says give it.
And I think that like since Riot is going to this point of view where the game is supposed to be hoverable, and that's the rule book, but there's so many just like random weird interactions that you just can't understand. Like when you hover over strongest, it doesn't tell you that if there's a tie, it will randomize it.
Yeah.
Like, how can you understand that as like a person who hasn't played thousands and thousands of hours of this game, or specifically tested specific interactions? Like, there's so many things that are just like too niche for the game to explain.
Mhm.
But it's also like, how much of a core rule set like thing is that if it's like a niche interaction? I don't know. It's so weird.
It also gets buried by path. Like, for instance, none of these things matter in path because path is all over the place, right?
I would
Like,
say.
none of yeah, like, you wouldn't, pay attention to strongest, I think, in path because there are so many things happening in path usually. So I wouldn't, pay attention to this when I'm playing path. Maybe that's just me. Like, the disintegrate
But I would, yeah.
interactions, you would get buried under the powers and the legendary effects. Like, I feel like path players don't care about this. And as we are moving, like, I'm trying to see this as a shift, but I don't think the PvP team is expanding. It's staying the same,
Yes.
right?
It's staying the same.
It's staying the same. So I don't even know if those things will be fixed. And in the terms of path and interactions and how maybe some of the decisions of the team have made things a little bit confusing, should we talk about the champions promotions in the expansion being in path? Like, what was that?
Yeah, it was a little problematic. You were like a shift. I quickly want to mention something about the rulebook before we move on to the next subject, because like I'm a little rulebook guy, but I actually came around to thinking that LoR shouldn't have an official rulebook, because
really?
as a lawyer, if people come to me and say I want to make a company and I have to like make a like a foundation paper on how my company should work, I usually advise them to write as little stuff into this foundation paper as you need, like build a football club or something. You shouldn't write like too much stuff into this foundation paper, because in the end it will just limit you. And you should just only write the stuff in that's necessary, and the rest is just like going to figure it out by itself. Like, having too strict of a rule book will be limiting as well. For example, with Magic, we had like a effect that like destroys everything. Then we had another effect that says I can't be destroyed. With the next effect, it is
I
like,
get that.
like if you destroy it, it can be destroyed, and then it also destroys stuff that can be regenerated. Was the name. And then you had like to write on every single card can be regenerated, and for every single card you had to write on can't be special summoned in Yu-Gi-Oh, for example. And like you end up with these endless lines of text. So actually, I think an official rulebook would limit this game more than it would actually help.
Yeah, and we know that Riot does arbitrary decisions to stuff. Like, they made an arbitrary decisions for disintegrate to work as it should, or not shouldn't. So it's not always going to be set in stone, and it can be changed because this is a digital card game. So
absolutely.
I would like more, clearer tooltips, maybe even clearer text for the specific cards than to have a full rule book. Because also, if you think about it, who is even reading the rule book? Like, think about the player base of LoR. Who is reading the rule book? Like, people are checking it out once in a while, but who is reading rule book when you can, hop into a game with a friend and test out the interaction yourself?
Yeah.
It's actually something I'm discussing with the guy on doing the wiki. Like I met them recently, and they were like, I have to mention every single specific interaction. For example, like how sapling toss, the card grants the Nexus an effect that the Nexus summons sapling at the next round start. And I was like, who cares about that? Like, why does it matter to people? They will just play the card and they get a sapling and will move on with their life. Like, this will be not relevant for like 99% of the people. And like,
that's true.
I don't really see many people hanging out on my rulebook either. Like, maybe one or so in 1 week checking it out. Or if I like post it somewhere, people check it out for like 10 minutes or something, but like, it's not really necessary.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a ton of information. And I think that like the game is just so simple to go into and experience that like you said, a lot of people just don't want to like
study,
just be reading about it. And like, there's things that people just don't care about. Like, people don't want to think about the fact that flash bombs can go through spell shield.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
So they just figured out.
But actually,
Yeah.
and the game shows you during the flash bomb tutorial. And I think a lot of people don't play any of the tutorials and don't pay attention to what's actually being happening and displayed in the tutorials. You know what I mean? Or the
Like how
challenges.
challenges, it's like such a stupid name. Like just call them like tutorial missions or something, or like campaign missions.
Right. And I think if they even just changed the tutorials, a lot of people would stop complaining about path being the tutorial.
No, it's a different issue,
Yeah.
but
That's a different issue, but maybe with this, shift to PvP, we'll see them not forcing everybody to participate in path
opium.
for their first experience.
Opium.
Opium? Oh no.
Let's hope. But like literally when I started out with the challenges, I was like, oh my god, the challenges are going to be challenging. I should play some expeditions first and learn all the cards before I try the challenges, because I was used to challenges from Yu-Gi-Oh! It's literally like you have to sit there for 2 hours to figure out what everything is going on the board.
Yeah.
It's just like it's just a tutorial, but it's like such an unfortunate name. But let's maybe cycle back
Yeah.
to what Joey was talking about with the videos showcasing different champions that they just had path in them instead of like competitive
Oh my
gameplay.
gosh.
And I also wasn't a fan of that because you couldn't actually see how the cards worked. Like I didn't chin it like an item, a quick attack or something, and then you just think he has quick attack, but he doesn't have quick attack, it was just an item and stuff.
Mhm.
I really
It's
didn't
very
really like that.
confusing.
Yeah, I think it was very misleading.
Very misleading, very
But-
confusing. And I think maybe a
Yeah.
better option for a tutorial for this game is to have players choose a deck, and then the game will take you through different matchups with that deck and how it works. Because for most of us, you're always going to be picking out one deck to spam for the first, 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever. So to have that experience for someone who really wants to learn the game, because most of us learn by that. You have one deck that you understand everything that is going to, happen with that deck, that can happen with the deck. And then you learn about other stuff by seeing other decks play you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's a better way than to just throw information. Like, it's just so much information at this point. Like, maybe when this game was 1 year old, these challenges made sense. But nowadays, it's so much information that it isn't there. Like, if you should have one challenge for Disintegrate only. Just for the cards.
True. And you know what? Maybe that's what they could do, right? If they want to use these challenges as sort of like a, hey, here's an explanation about how these mechanics work. I think that'd be super valuable. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what these are not presented as. These are presented as puzzles.
Yes.
And they're not puzzles. You know what I mean? They're literally just like, hi, this is how barrier works. Hi, this is how quick attack works. Hi, this is how challenger works. And it's like, it's just trying to teach you the fundamental basics.
And stuff that can be, in the tooltip, maybe? Stuff that could be
a little bit
in the tooltip?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like one of the things that one of the biggest shortcomings from Riot in regards to Legends of Runeterra internally for the game is just how confusing it is.
It's like a split.
This kind of goes back.
It's like a split. I often see like Magic players and Yu-Gi-Oh players say it's like way too easy and way too simple, while the non-card game players are finding it too confusing. It's like in between both worlds somehow.
Yeah, and I think that that's like one of the biggest hurdles that Riot was trying to kind of ride both sides on when it comes to path and PvP. But I think even path is too complicated for some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, some people don't know how many, for instance, legendary powers are there. Like, how many powers are there? Some people don't know. Still don't know. The amount of options that you have.
But yeah, I feel like we did a lot of complaining, but I would like to come back to actually just our statement. Our core statement is not like, oh my god, this game is disastrous, but this game is very, very good. And I think we can all agree on this. That it has a lot of amazing features, and we just always, like we as the engaged player base, just always want to find more stuff we can talk about, we can improve on. But we're very happy on the general state of the game, and the game is not dying. And stop saying that. It's like the core message of this podcast, I think.
I love this game. I think it just needs a little bit of love, I love this game.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
think it needs a little bit of love, like real care. And not just, devs.
Attention.
Yeah, attention, not just devs care. Like for instance, because I know the devs love this game and want to see
Love.
it succeed,
Mm-hmm.
and they are very dedicated at their jobs. But maybe something out of the main office, even us as players, it just needs a little bit of love to be a
Mhm.
truly
Yeah.
legendary game. And even then we won't see, the favorite metric of people who want to say the lore is dying, which is Twitch viewership, because Twitch is a different issue.
Yes.
That's different. Yeah. That's a whole different world.
Yeah.
I think, kind of circling or chiming in on the whole
Chime.
doomsayer posting. And I think that we've seen a lot of the community discussing the way in which the community is discussing the way in which the community expresses their feelings on the game,
Mhm.
right? And I don't, did you guys see that Mr. Emotional post, the tweet longer, where
Yeah, I saw.
he was essentially saying that, like, people will praise Sunny about how he criticizes the game, but then dunk on Mo. And I think it's very important that people realize how you say your criticism and how you explain it, and then how you present actionable, things afterwards is what's very important. If you just say, "Oh, ladder sucks," that's not
Mhm.
productive. But if you say, "Yo, ladder sucks because it's a best of one, blind deck list, there's not enough incentives, blah blah blah," like, if you go into, like, the details, I think it's a lot more helpful. And I think that a lot of content creators and a lot of people who are commenting on the game don't provide their thoughts and the feedback that they're giving enough, like you said, attention and care. If we love the game so much, we should be able to criticize it and hope for it to continue improving because we love it. We want it to be the best. And I think that's healthy. But I also think that just saying that it sucks for XYZ reason is not healthy. I don't know. I'm just rambling now.
No, yeah, you're completely right. Like, it needs love from both sides. And I think we as players, if we really love this game, we need to give it the praise where it needs to give. It needs to be. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, this meta is very, very, diverse and flexible. And we need to, give pointers where we want the game to change. Like for instance, for some people, the quality of life changes are, more important, and for some people, the meta being, shifted a bit is going to be more important. And for other people like me, I would personally like for the communication to be a little bit, better.
Marketing.
Yeah, marketing. Maybe we have a couple different feedbacks that we can give, and none of those can pass through if we let emotion and our bad side to come through the feedback.
Yeah, I agree.
I just want old labs back. Like just another thing I can play. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
just something.
Just
Yeah,
pop it.
like
Just pop out. Make labs or Path to Champions the button that Expeditions used to be, and then bring it. Let us play more.
random stuff.
Let us have more ways to play with the cards.
Like just some random tournaments, like how StarCraft did it. You have like daily tournaments or like weekly tournaments. So just like only bronze players can enter, only diamond players can enter. And you like get some like 100 shards in the end or something, which doesn't matter at all. But it's just like brings people, hey, I should play a tournament today or something. Or just like because today I was like I played my 5 path games, and then I was playing until I hit diamond, and I was like, okay, I want to do something fun. Well, I already played path, kind of pointless. I can't. I don't want to grind ladder anymore, and just nothing to do, and then it just turned off the game and hang out on Discord or something. But it's just kind of sad.
Yeah.
Give us more fun modes. This is my best.
Yeah, we can have maybe quests. Like if you build guilds into the game and have quests and have a leaderboard. Like Path doesn't have a leaderboard.
No.
Maybe we could have a Path leaderboard, or quests to do inside Path, which are not just get a champion to level whatever. There are very many different ways to have fun stuff in the game. But let's see what this focus on PvP is going to look like.
Yeah. What do you? So I would love to circle back to that, and then kind of because I think like I think we kind of discussed like, oh, it's good to have criticism. We all love the game. That's why we want it to be. That's why we want it to be improved, right? Because things staying the same is bad. But in regards to this change, right? This is a fundamental refocus, and I don't think that I think a lot of people are viewing this announcement of refocusing on PvP only through the lens of the developers and the developers that we lost, when to me it signifies a shift in how leadership and stakeholders are viewing Legends of Runeterra. Um, and if stakeholders and leadership are starting to see or are refocusing on the PvP aspect of the game, I think that is what's more important than saying, okay, well, we lost half of the Path of Champions devs and Path of Champions isn't going to be updated. I want to know why an upper management person was like, you know what? We're just going to do PvP and this is how we're going to do it. And I want to know like what that's going to look like in 6 to 8 months. They mentioned that we're going to have another roadmap by the end of the summer, which I'm terrified about because our last roadmap was awful. But what do you guys think this translation, how do you guys think that this refocus on PvP is going to translate into the game across the next few months?
So I think we're going to see that pretty soon, actually, because 3.10 is coming, I think, June 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. So 3.10 is going to be a balancing patch, which is going to be, led by Robinson, which we know is a very competitive player. And it's going to touch upon, the playcast merges, and we are going to also have the seasonals in one weekend. Like, we're going to start to see the directions that they are going to take the game. But I don't know about new stuff. Like, for instance, Path was their main, new feature that they were introducing to us for the past 2 months. The Path 2.0, that is. So, like, I have no idea what they are going to build for PvP, because PvP as it is for me, it's actually in a pretty good state. I would just add the quality of life changes that we were talking about.
Small things.
Like really, really small things. And something that it is really not related to competitive at all, because I feel like competitive is a really good spot right now. Like, we have 1 month expansion and 1 month balancing changes. Like, it feels pretty balanced. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
So my easiest fix about new content is always like what I say, just take these powers and just let people play PvP with them. Like, it's about like these mutators, and it doesn't have to be balanced at all. It just can be like a fun mode.
Mutators.
And just like Runstart, we fill all players spell mana. Let people play PvP with this. Or each Runstart transform the player's strongest follower, both players' strongest follower, into a squirrel and silence it. Let people have fun with it. Like, it just would be. You already have it like in the game. You just have to make it for both sides, and it can't be that hard, right?
Wait.
Just make it rotating. You have like, I think there are a total of like 120 different powers in the game. Just make it like rotating each week. A new power comes in. You can let it run forever, and people will be happy forever. And
that's so funny. That would be so fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you could even add that as a labs mode. You have all these functionalities in the game already. Like, why wouldn't they let us just like, okay, hey, go into a game against friends and pick a power or pick a random one? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
also, the lab tab is no longer a lab. Can we?
No.
It's not a lab anymore. It's Path of Champions, and Path of Champions is not a lab anymore. So we need to have a lab.
That's true.
Lab tab.
It's not a lab.
It's not a lab anymore. It's Path of Champions. So we need to have a lab tab, which is actually labs. And I feel like having labs is such a good thing for the game too, because I feel like when I was playing, even Lab of Legends or Path of Champions 1.0, I feel like some of the stuff that was there made it into the PvP game in keywords or different mechanics for champions.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to have labs that don't need to be Path of Champions.
Yes, exactly.
I love the 2v2 mode. I love that.
Oh, that's crazy. I feel like we've heard that Riot will never bring that back because of how much of a failure it was, which is so sad.
I think I think
Sorry.
even like in competitive sense, like I would love to see our meta revolve. That every spell and skill deals 1 extra damage. Like you would have control decks coming around, and you would have like crazy Ezreal burn decks, and you would just have other decks just
FTR
exploiting them
because
every.
FTR.
Yeah, and like maybe it's just
You know,
Stony Silence, Stony Suppressors running around because everybody will play a lot of spells and skills, and it just would be
yeah,
very fun to have like different meta shifts and stuff.
that's true. You know, we've been talking about this refocus on PvP solely in regards to competitive and ranked play. But do you think that this refocus on PvP is going to result in PvP labs coming back?
I hope so.
Maybe.
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 Soft maybe.
Soft maybe. Yeah, I like the the PvP labs. I really like them. I was looking at the history of labs, and I was surprised to
Mhm.
find so many different modes that I didn't even
Yeah.
remember. We had like a jungle lab mode.
Yes, I never got to play that.
What?
Yeah, that was based on the jungle experience in LoL League.
I don't remember that
Yeah.
at all.
We had like modes for promoting the new cards. So we had that for Targon.
Yeah. I thought that was cool.
That
Yeah.
was cool. To test out the new champions before crafting was kind of cool. We had the 2v2,
Yeah.
which was, bad.
Your
I guess.
favorite.
Yeah, my favorite was we had Earth.
Yes,
Had
Earth
Earth.
was so good.
Earth, yeah.
Was also
Yeah,
good.
ultra random. I would play that one a lot to just crush out my labs.
I
with.
played it almost as much as Expeditions, I would say.
Yeah. A bunch of different modes that just went away without, saying goodbye. Now that we have Path of Champions, we
Yeah.
could have a tab for Path of Champions and just, labs.
Mhm.
Real
Yeah.
labs.
You know what's funny though? They don't mention. They only use the word competitive once in this announcement, and so like I'm wondering if like a lot of the competitive community who is kind of rallying around this announcement is really setting themselves up for disappointment when the PvP focus is still going to be on casual players.
Hmm.
Oh, I see
I
what
don't
you mean.
I don't think that this. Oh, I'm starting to worry now. I don't think this is going to translate into the level of commitment that the competitive players want and are expecting from this announcement. And I think that that might end up leading to a lot of missed expectations and a lot of pain and frustration. I mean, once again, I want to reference this roadmap that's coming up at the end of the summer. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at that, and the competitive community is going to be like, where's cross chart, where's
Yeah.
in-game tournament, all of these
Technical
features
stuff.
that
Yeah.
that stresses me out.
I feel like that because that may be true because one thing that people didn't mention as a part of the casual focus in the game was that we had mono Shurima meta.
Mhm.
And that is for me
Oh,
that is catering to casuals because casuals like that
oh
deck a lot.
wow.
And we also have more deep support, and deep is also
And lurk,
deep is also a mode that casuals like very much. So
the
maybe
archetypes.
yeah, maybe that's what we're going to see for this what you're bringing out of maybe the competitive being more like casual instead of casual being more like competitive. And then
Yeah.
that's just going to be based on each player's taste, because for me, I didn't like monoshirima, I don't like deep, I don't like lurk. So like these changes were not catered to me, and I can make peace with that. But I don't know if the other competitive players care, like, because I know some competitive players who don't care about which deck is meta at the moment. They just want to play and win games.
They just want to win.
Yeah, they just want to win. So they
Yeah.
don't care if it's going to be mono Shurima or deep. They just want to win. So this wouldn't matter to them.
But isn't this just personal preference if you like don't like Monoshirima and stuff? I just view it as
Yeah, that's what she said.
like some decks you don't like, some decks you like. But like I like having different metas, like different meta archetypes. Like once you have a very popular combo deck, then you have a very popular control deck. You have like right now a very popular mid-range deck, and then everybody shifts around that. I think that was a good change of pace to just have one broken combo deck for a while. I had fun with it from a competitive aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be on
Yeah,
each player's taste. and there are some things that are balance related which are not related to the archetype. So for instance, to have variety and to have actual balance between the decks is not something that is going to be impacted by which archetype is playing, which archetype is in play at the moment, because you can build a balance and a variety meta with plenty of different archetypes, right? So I have no idea what they're going to do. If they're going to be, maybe I don't know which deck do casuals like most. I have no idea nowadays. If they're going to be, making spiders aggro nice again, I don't know.
Howling Abyss is a fan favorite. Just make it like 1 mana and people will be happy.
Yeah. If you're playing Mono Frill, it already just summons itself.
It only summons.
I'm reading through this.
It only summons 10 questions.
Oh no. So, in this announcement, they also mentioned that they're going to be including more consistent and well-tuned card updates in the third paragraph. And I think I'm worried now. I'm starting to get worried again reading these, right? Because it says this will include more consistent. It doesn't say more frequent. What if they say consistency? It means 3 months.
Oh, I don't know. Like
in between card
that's
consistent, right?
I think you're reading too
war
much.
flashbacks. Yeah, that's the war.
Thank you. I hope I am.
Because I feel like
that's what I'm worried about.
They reached a very balanced schedule of
cadence.
Of cadence of 1 month expansion with there are balance changes in the expansion patch, as we've seen with the pirate balancing this past expansion, and then 1 month later they do a balancing for the seasonals. I think that's okay. I feel like that's what they are going to be looking for. But if we because one of the main things that I feel like Riot has to fix regarding community and comms, for instance, is that the broken promises that they made to us like way too frequently, like 1 year from now. Like they said, oh, we're going to do more balancing like 1 year ago, and it was 3 months till we got balancing, and then they did it again and again and again, and this makes us as players and as consumers of this product to not have faith in what is being said to us. And that is something that I feel like most players have when they read these announcements about announcements. Like it's a meme now that we have announcements about announcements. And that we have a reason for that. It's because Riot has not been they have not kept their word with certain announcements.
Yeah, same with the path now, like just a 180 from
the
wild game mode to RIP. It's gone. I guess it's gone, but like not spoiled that much. Interesting. Will be interesting to look forward. I think we've talked for 1 hour and 45 minutes now. We should move on to like the final takes. What are your final words on these changes? Let's start with Wick.
My thoughts on these changes are that now the Legends of Runeterra team is going to be a lot more lean. There's going to be a lot less developers, and I think that that's going to enable them to save money on the game. It will allow them to work better and faster as a team, but I will be reserved in my hope for for Riot to focus on more than just PvP and to start focusing on like the competitive ecosystems. And I mean they have been, right, and they're going to be working with more and more community and grassroots tournaments, and I think that that's a big step in the right direction, but I don't know how hopeful we should all be in regards to the competitive aspect, but we should all be very hopeful in regards to the developers and Riot continuing to support and build Legends of Runeterra.
Okay, great.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I'm very, hopeful of what they're going to build for Legends of Runeterra. I'm usually more I need to see it to believe it person. So for instance, I will stay tuned for that balancing patch in 3.10. Like perhaps it's going to be June 22nd, and I'm going to be looking for the seasonals, how it works out. for the changes that they want to do, and I'm going to be keeping a very close eye for that, roadmap and anything other that's going to be happening this past few weeks from the devs, because I have I have an alert in my phone on my phone for every dev. So whenever they tweet
I should
out,
do that.
I'm already on it to see if they they change disintegrate, for instance, or something like that. So yeah, but maybe what I tend to not focus on what the things I cannot control. So I cannot control when the devs are going to make the changes. I have no say in that, but I can control what I say to the devs. So I'll be focusing on
Right.
that, right? The constructive criticism part.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm just like focusing on communicating, and like you said, just doing what you can. I can write a rule book. I can't change the rules into the game. I can't change the tooltips. You can only do so much. And I just want to reiterate my main points. Give us more ways to play the game, and give us more ways to give you money. Those are my biggest things.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a great podcast. We've talked about a lot of things. It was a very fluid discussion.
Yes.
And it was such a joy just talking to you and hearing your opinions. So thank you so much for joining. And
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, Joey.
Thank you so much for having me.
And yeah, if you want to talk to us, check out our RIWAN Poetry Discord, link in the description as usual. And thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Legends of Runeterra podcasts in the future. And have a good day or night or whatever. See you around.
Thank you.
Okay, I stopped the recording. I heard a bunch of background talk in the back. I think it was for both of you. Like, I don't know if like maybe it was just Wick, but yeah, that's fine. I should probably stop this recording then. I hope it wasn't like too silent. Like it seems kind of silent, but I don't know.